Hi everyone, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me Gardening. Today we're talking all things hydrangeas. Welcome to our garden here in upstate New York, zone 5B/6A. We are thrilled to talk to you today about hydrangeas. We have over 180 hydrangeas right now growing in our garden, more than 35 varieties. And we wanted to make this video to go through the different varieties, how we care for them, special tips regarding them, and make sure that you feel comfortable growing hydrangeas in your garden.
The first hydrangeas that we want to talk about are the panicle hydrangeas. We want to talk about these first because they were the first hydrangeas that we planted in our garden when we first started 6 years ago. These hydrangeas, sometimes called PG or hardy hydrangeas, these are the ones that you're going to see bright white cone-shaped blooms on. Sometimes they're a dense mop-head bloom, sometimes they're a little lacier, more open. You're going to notice that they're white. Some fade to a pink, some fade to a deeper red color, which is not based on your soil chemistry. That is a genetic trait in the hydrangea. They will change that color themselves if they want to. Some actually do stay perfectly white.
Now, the reason this is such a great starter hydrangea is because it's kind of a foolproof hydrangea. Panicle hydrangeas bloom on new wood, and what that means is they put their flowers out on the growth of this season. So they can be cut back pretty hard, whether it's by frost, whether a deer ate them, whether your neighbor accidentally trimmed them down, but they are still going to put out flowers for this year. And panicle hydrangeas love sun. They are the most sun-loving hydrangea of all the varieties we're going to be talking about today. In the north, like us, they love being in the sun all day, sun up to sun down. Further south or way on the west coast in the California, Oregon area, they might really want a little bit more shade in the afternoon.
Let's talk about some of the go-to varieties in our garden of panicle hydrangeas. First up is Limelight. Limelight is a classic. This is going to get at least 8 feet tall and wide. It's going to give you beautiful white blooms that come out from this kind of limey green bud. They will fade to a bit of a dusty pink color as fall goes on. Just a classic. Dark green, healthy leaves. Love this hydrangea.
We actually planted an entire hedge of them. There's 15 of them planted 5 feet apart on center and 4 feet from the fence, and it is what made us fall in love with hydrangeas. They are hardy in USDA zones 3 to 9. The earliest blooming panicle hydrangea in our garden is the Quick Fire hydrangea, and that's what makes it really special. Is those of you that are familiar with panicles know that they're kind of a mid to late summer bloomer, but Quick Fire for us blooms in June, and we love that about it. It gets about the same size as Limelight, so 8 feet tall and 6 feet wide. Gorgeous lace cap blooms and very quick to turn pink.
Yes, and while it's turning pink so early, you will be amazed at what a pollinator magnet the Quick Fire hydrangea is.
Hardy in zones 3 through 8.
If you thought Quick Fire was exciting, the hydrangea that's just over our shoulder will absolutely amaze you. This is the improved Quick Fire Fab. Quick Fire Fab has almost identical statistics to the Quick Fire, but it has the most enormous, beautiful mop head blooms.
And what's really cool is the florets that it produces are star-shaped. Traditionally, they would be more like a daisy petal, right? Yeah. Like traditional 4 little petals. But the Quick Fire Fab has enormous pointy star-shaped florets, which is really cool. If you're looking for a panicle hydrangea that stays smaller, there are a lot of really good choices on the market. One that we have growing at the base of our Gothic arch in our hydrangea room are the Bobo hydrangeas. We have 2 of them, and they're a nice, compact 3x3 hydrangea, hardy in zones 3 through 8. Again, the blooms start out a little bit green. They get bright white, but they don't really fade to pink.
No, they stay white, which is wonderful.
If you want a smaller, compact hydrangea that fades to pink or turns pink, Firelight Tibet is one of my top favorite miniature panicle hydrangeas. We've had tons of success with panicle hydrangeas in our garden. For us, they start blooming as early as June with a Quick Fire, like we mentioned earlier. and they go all the way through into fall until that very first frost. We think they are excellent for screening. We chose our limelights because they got nice and big and full and lush, and from midsummer all the way through fall, they provide a gorgeous privacy screen for us.
One side note, you definitely want to avoid getting their blooms wet. That can encourage them to get a little bit on the brown side, and you don't want that to happen not just for beauty, but also you want to be able to cut and dry these flowers, which both applications are perfect. There is absolutely a panicle hydrangea for every garden. There is the smallest panicle hydrangea, the tiny quick fire, all the way up to the largest panicle hydrangea, the new Pinky Winky Prime. If you are looking for easy care, no fuss, there you go with a panicle hydrangea.
My latest hydrangea obsession are smoothleaf hydrangeas, also known as Annabelle or arborescens. Now, these hydrangeas are gorgeous. They bloom white, they bloom pink, they can bloom green. They are either mop head or lace cap, kind of globe-shaped blooms. And what makes them really awesome for beginning or new gardeners is that they also, like panicle hydrangeas, bloom on new wood.
These are absolutely the easiest category of hydrangea to prune. You can bring them down to about 18 inches from the ground every year. We like to do that in spring. And as far as location, they can handle full sun down to about them to part shade. They do like a little bit of sun, I would say. But in our case, we definitely give them afternoon protection. We try to keep them on the east side of our house where they're not going to get those real burning rays of the sun.
Last fall, we were so inspired by the beauty of smoothleaf hydrangeas that we decided to install our hydrangea room. And this space has 4 different types of smoothleaf hydrangeas alternating in a hedge. It starts with Invincibelle Sublime, which grows about 4 to 5 feet tall and wide. And of course, it blooms on new wood like all of these varieties. And it's hardy in zones 3 through 8. That alternates with Invincibelle Lace, which is the closest to the native hydrangea arborescens in North America, also growing 4 to 5 feet tall and wide, hardy to zones 3 through 8. What's really neat about that one is it has purpley pink flowers and white florets, so you kind of get 2 colors on that same hydrangea bloom. Also in that hydrangea hedge are Incrediball, which the name kind of speaks for them. They grow 5 by 5 and produce enormous bright white mop head blooms. And then the 4th is Incrediball Blush. Very similar to Incrediball, but blush or pink colored flowers. And that combination, every time I saw it this past summer, early summer is when, smooth leaves bloom, it was just stunning.
Other varieties in our garden that we actually are able to keep in full sun, unlike some of these varieties we've just talked about, are Invincibelle Mini Mauvette and Invincibelle Wee White. These are both smaller varieties. You're not going to get such a big billowing effect, but you get something a little bit more compact. With Wee White, you're going to get a beautiful, crisp white bloom. We actually have these right at the front of our house in full sun, and they get overhead water, still looking beautiful throughout the summer. And then the Mini Mauvette, it's a little bit of a plummy tone, and they have rebar strong stems, and they do beautiful in the full sun. So Annabelle, that's a great choice for you. Annabelle or arborescens hydrangea is a great choice for you if you're new to pruning, have a little bit of afternoon shade, and you're looking to fill it with beautiful color. Like the arborescens, the next variety of hydrangea we want to talk about is the quercifolia or oakleaf hydrangea. These are a 4-season of interest, beautiful shrub. They are going to give you peeling, beautiful bark in the wintertime. They're going to give you tremendous oak tree-shaped leaves. They're very leathery and thick. They'll give you gorgeous blooms early in the season, and as those fade away, you're going to be left with a mahogany, burgundy, reddish foliage that's absolutely beautiful.
What makes the oak leaf very different from the smooth leaf is that oak leaf hydrangeas bloom on old wood. So you'll want to avoid pruning oak leaf hydrangeas at all costs. You would only take out those pruners if you want to shape it or reduce the size in any way. If you do that, you will be forfeiting some blooms, so make sure that it only is done if necessary. Oakleaf hydrangeas also have conical shaped blooms. They can either be a lace cap type bloom or a mop head bloom. Gatsby Pink for us is one of our earliest blooming hydrangeas, and it does have a very pretty lacy bloom that the pollinators adore. It grows to be about 6 feet by 6 feet.
Yeah, I would say, and it's a true solid shrub. You definitely want to give this lots of room.
If you're looking for an oakleaf hydrangea with more of a mop head bloom, you'll want to consider Gatsby Moon. Gatsby Moon hydrangea gets about 6 to 8 feet tall and wide and produces enormous, gorgeous, bright white flowers. The other difference between smoothleaf hydrangeas and oakleaf hydrangeas is they're not quite as cold hardy. Oakleaf hydrangeas are only hardy down to USDA Zone 5.
We like to site our oakleaf hydrangeas on the east or the north side of the house. We want to protect them from the hottest part of the day. We want to keep them from getting scorched in that, really intense late afternoon sun. I will say as a side note that these hydrangeas look terrible in the can. When you go to a garden center and you look for an oakleaf hydrangea, if you see something that does not look that attractive, don't worry. Once they are set free from the confines of that container, they are going to put those roots out and give you a beautiful plant for years to come.
They really are a stunning hydrangea. For us, they are the earliest hydrangeas to bloom in our garden, and they are very reliably hardy. So oakleaf hydrangeas are a great choice. Newer to us, because we've always been a little bit scared, are big leaf hydrangeas or Hydrangea macrophylla. And these hydrangeas are those gorgeous, big, billowing blue flowers you see on Cape Cod. But they don't only bloom blue, they can also bloom pink or purple or lavender or any shade in between, all dependent upon your soil composition. The more acidic or more aluminum is in your soil, the bluer or more purple that hydrangea may bloom. And likewise, the more alkaline or the more lime in your soil, the pinker that hydrangea will bloom. Just like oakleaf hydrangeas, bigleaf hydrangeas bloom on old wood. So you're going to want to avoid pruning at any point in time. However, you can deadhead them. And if you do decide to deadhead your bigleaf hydrangea, you're going to want to go to the very first set of 2 leaves just below that faded blue.
These hydrangeas will definitely benefit from winter protection, especially in some of the colder zones like ours. However, something wonderful has begun happening in the plant world. Remontancy has been bred into some of the macrophylla hydrangeas. What does remontancy mean? Reblooming. So if, in fact, you do have a late frost, you have deer, you have a mishap with your pruning, you will still get flowers because these new macrophylla have been bred to actually put new blooms on after that initial flush would have happened.
And one of those newest varieties is Let's Dance Skyview, which has been a tremendous success for us as we enter into this big leaf hydrangea world. And what's really cool about it is the buds have improved cold hardiness. Now, that doesn't mean that we're not going to do our best to protect them this winter, because we are greedy for beautiful flowers in our garden, and we're going to make sure that we protect them from that cold or that late spring frost, because that's what's going to nip those buds. The buds are going to get tricked into thinking that it's warm enough to start opening, and they'll start to open, and that frost will come and it'll kill those buds. We've seen it happen in the past, and that's why we've been so scared of big leaf hydrangeas in our colder climate. So Let's Dance Skyview gets to be about 3 by 3. It blooms on old wood and new wood, so it's a re-bloomer. In our garden, If we don't amend the soil at all, Let's Dance Skyview is going to bloom a beautiful, subtle pink. Gorgeous, tidy habit. I'm really excited to see how these continue to do for us.
The next hydrangea we want to share with you has quickly become my new personal favorite hydrangea. That is Let's Dance Can Do. This hydrangea has this amazing ability to put blooms out on each one of the little nodes up the stem. So you get just flower power like none other. It's a strawberry pink to a lavendery purple. It's not going to give you a deep blue, but it is an absolutely stunning, more lace-capped type flower.
And again, just like Let's Dance Skyview, it has been bred to bloom on both old and new wood. And because it flowers all the way up the stem, if that top is chopped off or eaten or nipped, it's still going to flower.
Absolutely.
It's been a very strong performer for us.
Let's Dance Can Do is going to reach 4 feet tall by about 3 feet wide, and it's hardy in zones 4 through 9.
Not as cold hardy as Let's Dance Can Do is new for 2025 Wee Bit Innocent. An adorable, very small, pastel big leaf hydrangea, perfect for growing in containers. Not only because of its size, but you can move that container into the garage over the winter to guarantee protection of those precious little buds in those colder climates. What makes Wee Bit Innocent really interesting is its pale color that it produces, either a very pale baby pink or a very pale baby blue.
Another variety that has just joined us this year is Let's Dance Lovable, and honestly, I love it. The best part about Let's Dance Lovable is not only are you going to get hundreds of really, really full, beautiful blooms, they are going to be an intense color. You're going to get a vivid pink or a vivid purple, which is in stark contrast to Wee Bit Innocent, which is always in the pastel.
We saw these live in person, fully grown and mature at the Spring Meadow Trial Gardens, the Proven Winners Trials Gardens in Michigan last summer. And we rounded that corner and our jaw dropped. We were like, we gotta have that.
It's incredible how many blooms they will put out. You almost do not see leaves on these.
This was the hydrangea that we saw, and we thought we've got to work harder and try harder for these big leaf hydrangeas.
Yes, so these are going to be about 4 feet by 4 feet, and they're going to be hardy in zones 5 through 9. Another variety of hydrangea that we absolutely adore in the garden is a cousin of the big leaf hydrangea. The big leaf hydrangeas grow down on the shores in Japan, and then up in the mountain is Hydrangea serrata, the mountain hydrangea. These are another old wood hydrangea. You do not want to prune them if you do not have to prune them. And these tend to be much more of a lace cap. You're going to get very open flowers. I find that these are where you're really going to get deeper purples and deeper blues coming out of your plants. Beautiful green leaves. The varieties that we have in our garden do rebloom, which is good in case we have those late frosts. And we tend to site them with a little bit more sun. We do have some that are planted in more of a part shade situation, and they do not bloom as well as the ones that bloom are placed in the, I'd say, part sun.
So the first variety that we have planted in our garden is the Tough Stuff hydrangea, the original from Proven Winners. The pollinators adore this shrub. We have a grouping of 3 in part sun underneath our eastern redbud, and they have the most beautiful purpley pink blooms on them. It's a really nice combination. They're going to grow to be about 3 by 3. They're hardy in zones 5 through 9. And they are just a gorgeous lace cap variety.
Another variety that we have in our garden is the Tough Stuff Top Fun. Always a tongue twister.
It is.
It's a wonderful variety. It has very similar characteristics to the traditional Tough Stuff, except that it's going to give you a bit of an improvement in its reblooming, and it's much more of a vivid pink, like a hot pink to hot purple kind of color. It also has kind of a cheerful bright green center as those buds are opening.
And it is supposed to bloom more prolifically or profusely than the original Tough Stuff hydrangea. We are big fans of the mountain hydrangea, not only because of the lace caps that the pollinators love, but they have nice, big, bold leaves. They have beautiful, tidy structures. They bloom well in full sun for us, and the intense color is a must-have for us in our garden.
Before we end our time here with hydrangeas, we wanted to give you 3 basic tips to have hydrangea success in your garden.
The first one is no wet feet. Hydrangeas love a moist, well-draining soil, but they don't want to be sitting in water, so don't plant them in an area that stays consistently wet. Because hydrangeas have shallow roots, though, you're going to want to keep them well watered and apply 2 to 3 inches of a really nice mulch or compost to help keep that soil evenly moist, but not wet.
We like to fertilize our hydrangeas in the early spring when we're doing that initial pruning, only for panicles and arborescens. We also do give them a second, maybe half feed around the time that they start to bloom. We tend to use a granular organic fertilizer that is on the acidic side. If we are trying to amend the soil to encourage more of a blue color in our bigleaf or serrata hydrangeas, we'll also add a soil acidifier that contains aluminum sulfate at the same time that we're fertilizing in the early spring. You can apply that a couple times throughout the season if you're really trying to push them into more of a blue place.
For our second fertilization during the growing season, we tend to use a liquid fish fertilizer, and that we just water them in at the base with it. Smells really bad, but the hydrangeas really like it. Our final hydrangea tip for you today is do not be afraid to plant your hydrangeas in sun. A lot of people think hydrangeas are shade plants, but they really enjoy sun. Some varieties are more tolerant of shade. Those still need at least 4 hours of sun per day. But panicles and smoothleaf and mountains, all these varieties will always bloom better for you in more sun, preferably morning sun. Thank you so much for joining us today as we covered my favorite topic, hydrangeas. So if you have any questions, comments, leave them below in the video. Make sure to like and subscribe. Again, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me Gardening.
Thanks for growing with us.